Hey guys, welcome to Fanfic Fanatics. So in today's video we are gonna see, what if Deku was Demigod, the son of Demeter? Before starting, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe if you are interested in MHA fanfictions. This story is Izuku, the son of Demeter by Makedonius. Now without wasting any more time, let's dive in. No one pa. A small child maybe 7 years old is seen running through the night of Musudafu. Something is hunting him and it was catching up to the small boy fast. The boy ran as fast as he could, but it seemed like that thing was gonna get him if he wanted to or not. But then a whistle was heard and the next thing the small boy knew was that the thing fell to the ground before exploding into golden dust. Izuku. What was that? He asked out of breath. At that moment a teenage girl in a silver parka stepped out of the shadows. Are you Izuku Midoriya? Izuku. No. You are a bad liar. Izuku. No, I am not. Yes, you are. Anyways, I am Zoe Nightshade. I was sent to bring you to camp. Izuku. Hold up. Why should I go with you? I just met you. Also, what camp? Zoe. Listen, if I wanted to kill you I would have by now. Also, I just saved your life. I wouldn't have done that if I nated you dead, and the camp one I'm talking about where people like you are safe from those things. Izuku. Wait, there are more of those? Zoe. Of course. Now come on, I am not gonna save you a second time. Zoe turned away from Izuku and walked down the street. Izuku, looking back at where the monster was, hesitated for a second but then shook his head. Izuku. I got nothing here anyways. He then quickly ran after the older girl, not wanting to be left behind. 2 days later, on a cargo ship in the middle of the Pacific. Izuku. Why didn't we take a plane? Zoe. Because Zeus is pissed at Demeter at the moment and I am not risking being shot down by a lightning bolt. Izuku. Right. Izuku still didn't believe half of the things Zoe told him in the last 2 days. Apparently his mom that he never met is a goddess, and that his dad died because a monster hunted him, causing him to grow up with his aunt and her asshole of a husband and son. It didn't got better as he was diagnosed as quirkless. On the other side, there were weird things that happened around him whenever his emotions got the better of him. Like one time a branch of a tree fell on Bakugo as the explosive kid hunted him through the woods. Bakugo had to go to the hospital because of a heavy concussion and a broken shoulder. He could have died if it wasn't for Izuku dragging him back to the street and calling an ambulance. After that, Bakugo left Izuku mostly alone, but he was also deeply afraid of trees for a while. But that wasn't the only incident where something weird happened. Thinking about those incidents, Izuku started to realize that some of those incidents were hardly to explain with good luck. Branches breaking from healthy trees exactly at the moment when he is in danger, or the roots of plants suddenly sticking out of the ground and tripping his cousin and his gang of bullies. Zoe. What is on your mind? Izuku. Huh? What? Zoe. You just were staring at the wall of the container. Izuku. Oh. Well, I just remembered a few incidents. Now that I think about them, they seem less like an incident. Zoe. Yeah, that happens to many demigods. Their powers protecting them without them even realizing. Izuku. A question. Are all demigods quirkless? Zoe. Mostly. There are some that have quirks, but they are really weak most of the time, that is, unless the quirk fits with their godly powers. If we say, for example, a child of Aphrodite has a quirk that allows them to make their skin smooth, combine that with their godly side, then the quirk gets 3 times stronger. Their skin could get so smooth that attacks just bounce right off. Izuku. So if I had a plant quirk it would get boosted? Zoe. Yep. Izuku just nodded as Zoe just closed her eyes. Zoe. You should try to get some sleep. This will be a long trip. Izuku sighed before he laid down on the cold floor of the cargo container. He thought about what was ahead of him and how much his life was gonna change. But one thing he was sure about is that nothing will be as it was before for him. 5 days later, port of San Francisco. Zoe. Hey. Wake up. Izuku. Haha. What's going on? Zoe. We have arrived, we need to get off before they check the containers. Izuku. Oh. Zoe pulled Izuku to his feet. She then walked to the entrance of the container, opening it slightly. She peered outside before turning to Izuku. Zoe. The coast is clear, let's go. Zoe ran out of the container, quickly followed by Izuku. They ran through the port past other containers. They only stopped running as they reached the end of the port and walked into a busy street. Izuku. Where are we? Zoe. San Francisco. Izuku. We are in the USA. Zoe. Yeah, of course, where else did you thought we would go? Izuku. Greece, because my mom is a Greek goddess. Zoe. Fair point, but no, you see, Olympus moves with the center of the Western world. Once that was Greece, then it was Italy, then France and England until it shifted here to the USA. Izuku. Wait, Olympus could even be in Japan? Zoe. If it is the center of the Western world, maybe. Anyways, let's grab some supplies, we have a long way ahead of us. Izuku. Where is that camp anyways? Zoe. Long Island, New York. Izuku. Wait, so we traveled over the Pacific and now we have to travel all across the USA? Zoe. Yeah, got any problem with that? Izuku. No, let's go. Zoe. Good. Oh, and here you will need this. Zoe held out a bronze dagger and dropped it in his hands. Izuku. A dagger for what do I need that? Zoe. To fight of the monsters, of course. The sooner you start to learn how to defend yourself, the better for us. Also, that dagger is made out of celestial bronze. It will kill monsters, but it will be useless against normal mortals. Izuku. Okay, Zoe. Now let's go, the sun is still up for 5 hours. I want to get out of San Francisco today. Zoe took the lead. Izuku put the dagger in his pocket as he tried to keep up with the older girl. Just then Izuku's stomach growled. Zoe. How about we get a hot dog first? Izuku. Sounds nice, but I don't know how to speak English. Zoe. No worry, I will order. Izuku. Where did you even learn how to speak Japanese? Zoe. I didn't, we are speaking ancient Greek at the moment. Izuku. Wait, what? Zoe laughed. You didn't realize that? We have spoken Greek the entire time. Izuku. But I never learned how to speak Greek. Zoe. It's natural for you. That is why you have problems reading and writing. Your brain is put on the Greek language. So you could say Japanese is a foreign language for it. Izuku. Great, and let me guess, I will have to learn English now as well. Zoe. Yep. Izuku. Great. 1 month later near Long Island. Zoe. Faster. Izuku. I can't any faster. Zoe and Izuku were running from a group of hellhounds. It was dark and raining as they ran through the woods trying to get to camp. Zoe. We just have to get over that hill. Just then a hellhound came out of nowhere and jumped onto Zoe. They fell to the ground as the hellhound tried to bite Zoe. Izuku, thinking fast, pulled out his dagger and jumped on the hellhound, thrusting his dagger into the back of the beast. The beast exploded into golden dust and Izuku grabbed Zoe's arm trying to pull her up, but she was unconscious with blood dripping down from a wound on her head. Izuku. Damn it. Then Izuku heard growling and he looked up, seeing the pack of hellhounds surrounding him and Zoe. Izuku. Leave us alone. But the hellhounds just growled at him. That pack had hunted him and Zoe for 2 days now. His mind suddenly was filled with anger. Those dogs hurted Zoe, they bit her, and now she is unconscious because of them. He was hungry, he was tired and frustrated, so he screamed out in anger, but it sounded more like rolling thunder. Izuku. I said, leave us alone. The hellhounds backed away, fear in their eyes, before one of them started yelping and running away, the others following quickly after. Izuku was stunned as he saw the pack of hellhounds running away. Izuku. They actually left. Snapping out of his surprise, he turned back to Zoe, who was still unconscious. He groaned and huffed as he lifted the girl up. She was taller than him and heavier. But he tried his best to ignore it as he put the girl on his back and dragged her up the hill. Izuku. Nearly there. He huffed and groaned until he finally saw a lonely pine tree on top of the hill. Izuku. Come on. Izuku finally, with the last of his strength, managed to reach the top of the hill. But there was nothing there, only the view over a plain field. Izuku. What? Here is nothing. He turned around, his hope of safety shattering as he saw nothing. No camp, no house, not even a ruin of something. Until he heard a gentle female voice. Go ahead, Izuku. Huh, go ahead. There is safety ahead. The same voice said again. Izuku turned around looking for the person where the voice came from, but he found nothing. The voice rang out again, but this time she sounded more demanding. Izuku though felt like he could trust the voice. So he took a step forward and then another until all of a sudden the field in front of him changed. Izuku's jaw dropped as several cabins surrounded by training grounds and strawberry fields appeared in front of him. Izuku. Wow. Izuku shaked his head concentrating on the task ahead. He had to find help. He looked around until he saw light coming out of a big house. He readjusted Zoe on his back before he made his way towards the big house. He was just about to go up the stairs as a man half-horse, half-human came opened the door bow in hand. Izuku gritted his teeth. Great. The next morning. Zoe groaned as she slowly opened her eyes. Zoe. What the fuck happened? Chiron. Ah, you are finally awake. Zoe looked to her left to see Chiron standing in the doorframe. Zoe. Chiron, how did I get here? Where is Izuku? Chiron. He brought you here while you were unconscious and right now he is with Annabeth who shows him around camp. Zoe. What? How? We were hunted by a pack of hellhounds. How did he get us both here? Chiron. Well, he says he screamed at them and they ran away. Zoe. He screamed, so he has the ability of Chiron. Of his ancestor, yes. Combine that with his godly powers and natural strength that comes with being a demigod and you get a very mighty demigod. Zoe. Gods, and I thought his bloodline died out centuries ago. Chiron. Same, I never could have imagined it getting all the way from Greece to Japan. Zoe. So what now? Chiron. First we will wait until his mother claims him and then I don't know. I guess we wait until we get a sign. With Izuku. We can see Izuku walking around with the 1-year-older Annabeth Chase. Annabeth was showing him the cabins and they just reached the Hermes cabin. Annabeth. This is the Hermes cabin. He is the god of travels. You will stay there until, forget it. Izuku. Huh, Annabeth. You are going to the Demeter cabin. She pointed above Izuku's head. Izuku looked up just in time to see a glowing sheaves of wheat fading. Annabeth. Hail to Izuku Midoriya, son of Demeter. 4 years later, we can see a 11-year-old Izuku sitting by his siblings on the Demeter table during lunch. It has been around 2 weeks since Percy Jackson joined the camp and yesterday was the day he was claimed. It happened during the game of Capture the Flag and it shocked the whole camp. Percy Jackson was the child of Poseidon, one of the Big Three, a child that shouldn't be according to the oath the Big Three took after World War II. Anyways, Izuku was sitting with his siblings as Chiron walked past their table. Chiron. Ah, Izuku, would you be so kind to come to the big house after lunch? I have something to tell you. Izuku. Oh, of course, Chiron. Chiron walked away and his sister Katie Gardiner asked him. Katie. Did you do something? Izuku. No, at least not that I know. Izuku finished his lunch and then headed up towards the big house where Chiron and Mr. D live. They were sitting outside playing cards as they saw Izuku. Chiron. Ah, Izuku. Perfect. Izuku. You wanted to see me. Chiron. Yes, you see we got a quest for you. Izuku. A quest? Why? What do I have to do? Is it? Mr. D. Shut it. Good. Now you see the quest is about you retrieving a family heirloom of yours. Izuku. A heirloom? From the Midoriyas? Chiron. Well, kinda. This heirloom has been in the possession of your bloodline far longer. The family of Midoriya didn't even existed at that time. Izuku. Okay, then what is that heirloom? Chiron. A spear. Izuku. A spear. Just a spear. Mr. D. It's not just a spear, it's the Pelion spear. The spear of Achilles. Izuku. What? Chiron. Do you remember what happened as you arrived at camp? As you screamed at those hellhounds and they ran. Izuku. Yes, Chiron. You see, Achilles not only was invulnerable but he also had another ability, his scream. His scream was so mighty it caused fear among his enemies, especially if it was filled with anger. It sounded like rolling thunder and you have that ability. Izuku. Like Pan. Mr. D. No, Pan's scream caused panic. Achilles' scream caused fear. Chiron. We thought his bloodline died out until you were born. Mr. D. His spear was lost to us centuries ago. But we got a prophecy that only one of Achilles' blood will be able to find it. Chiron. When the blood of the king of the Myrmidons steps up once again, the spear will be found. Guarded by 7 guards of mud and stone, hidden away of the sunlight under a mountain. The heads of 4 great leaders rest above, their noses held high. The blood of the Myrmidon's king will claim his fate or lose the spear to an enemy far worse. Mr. D. This prophecy is quite forward, so you should have no problem puzzle it together. Now get a team together, you will start your journey in 2 days. Now go, I have a card game to win. As Izuku walked away, as the things they talked about rushed through his head. Izuku. What the fuck just happened? Izuku paused. Who to ask? Who to ask? I was currently walking through camp looking for 2 people that would accompany me on my quest. I did ask Annabeth, but she said she is already going on a quest with Percy and Grover. So who could I ask? Katie. Maybe, but no. Humo, I know who. I ran towards the Ares cabin and immediately saw the person I was looking for. Izuku. Clarice. Clarice. Huh, Izuku. What do you want? Izuku. Well, I wanted to ask you if you would accompany me on a quest. Clarice. You got a quest. How? Izuku. Well, it is about an heirloom of my family and well. Clarice. Just spit it out, Midoriya. Izuku. Right, so I am a descendant of Achilles and we have to go and find his spear. Clarice. You are what? Izuku. Yeah, I know, hard to believe. So are you in? Clarice. What do I get out of it? Izuku. A new spear. Clarice. You do know that only you will be able to lift the spear since you have the blood of Achilles. No one else will be able to lift it. Izuku. Oh, well, I am sure as a reward we can ask for a new one for you. Clarice. Sure, why not? I am in. 4. Izuku. Great. Now I need a 3rd person. Any ideas? Clarice. Not really. How about Luke? He was already on a quest 1. I'm sure he would be a great companion. Izuku. Great idea. I will go talk to him. 1. I was about to walk away as Clarice grabbed my shoulder. Clarice. Now not so fast. You didn't tell me when we leave. Izuku. Oh right, sorry. We leave in 2 days. She nodded as she let go of my shoulder and I continued on my way towards the Hermes cabin. Surprisingly, no one was on the balcony, so I knocked on the door and barely 5 seconds later the door opened and I was met with the faces of Travis and Connor Stoll. They had an innocent smile on their face, that kind of innocent face where you know they did something bad. Connor. Hey Izuku. Izuku. Hey, why are you guys smiling like that? Travis. Oh, no reason. Smiling isn't forbidden, isn't it? Izuku. No, of course not. But when you 2 smile like that I know that you did something. Connor. What? Us? We did nothing. Just then there was a high-pitched scream that I knew too well was coming from Katie. Izuku. Oh really? They tried to close the door on me but I put my foot in the door blocking it. Izuku. Now can you tell me where Luke is? Travis. We don't know. Connor. We didn't saw him since breakfast. Izuku. Any idea where he is? Connor and Travis. No. Katie. Izuku. Don't let them escape. They blew up our beds. They also got one of your All Might figures. Izuku. You what? Connor and Travis let go of the door and ran to the back of the Hermes cabin as I ran after them, closely followed by my siblings. Travis helped Connor out the window. Connor reached for his brother but he wasn't fast enough to pull him up as I was able to grab him. Connor. Travis. Travis. Run. Save yourself. 10 minutes later and Travis was now tied up sitting on the stairs of the Hermes cabin with a red hand print on his cheek courtesy of Katie. I was standing above him glaring down upon him with Katie besides me, while most of my other siblings are off to look for Connor. Izuku. That is the second one you have destroyed. Travis. I am sorry. Katie. How did you get into our cabin? Stole. Travis. Katie. You can either answer or I let Izuku do what he wants to do to you for blowing up his favorite All Might figure. Travis. Okay. We saw that your toilet window was open, that is how we got in. Katie. Good boy. She turns to me. Katie. We really can't leave any windows open with those 2 around. Izuku. Maybe some thorny bushes or some enchanted vines could help. Just then Luke stepped up besides Izuku. Luke. So what did they do this time? Katie. Blowing up our beds. Izuku. And destroying my favorite All Might figure. Luke. How is he still alive? Izuku. Katie stopped me. Luke. You got lucky. Travis. You tell me. Luke. Where is Connor? Katie. Still on the run. Izuku. But not for long. Luke. Okay, well then I will go back to our cabin if I am not needed. Luke already turned around as I remembered why I came to the Hermes cabin originally. Izuku. Oh wait, Luke. Yeah, Izuku. I wanted to ask you if you could accompany me on my quest. Luke. Quest. You are going on a quest. Izuku. Yeah, just got it that morning. Luke. What is it about? Izuku. Finding Achilles' spear. Luke. Travis and Katie. What? Izuku. Damn, you don't need to scream like that. Luke. Why? I mean, you can't even lift it unless you have Achilles' blood. Izuku. Yeah, about that. Well. No one paw. 2 days later. Clarice. So the spear is hidden underneath the mountain. Izuku. Yeah, Clarice. Under which one? There are a lot of mountains, you know. Izuku. Under a mountain where the heads of 4 great leaders rest above, their noses held high. Luke. Sounds like Mount Rushmore. Izuku. Mount Rushmore. Clarice. You never heard of Mount Rushmore? I thought you traveled through the entire USA as you got here. Izuku. Yeah, but we didn't exactly had time to go sightseeing. We were hunted first by a group of Scythian Dracaenas, then a Cyclops, and then by a pack of hellhounds. So you can imagine how my traveling through the USA went. Luke. Yeah, well anyways, we got a long way ahead of us. South Dakota isn't exactly around the corner. Clarice. No shit, Izuku. I think the best is we go to the main train station in New York and get a train to South Dakota then. Luke. Sounds simple, but it probably will not be that simple. Clarice. Well, maybe we get lucky and get all the way to Minnesota. Luke. Doubt it. We are lucky if we make it to Ohio. Clarice. $10 that we make it to Chicago. Luke. I say we make it to Pittsburgh. I am in. Izuku. As long as we reach Mount Rushmore in the end. 2 days later. Clarice. Gods damn it. Clarice groaned as she handed Luke his $10. Luke. Told you. Clarice. Yeah, you just got lucky that those stupid Scythian Dracaenas turned up. Luke. We are demigods, you should have expected something like that. 5 days later. Clarice. Where are we? Izuku. Near Chicago. Luke. We got lucky that we got that bus, or we still would be wandering around in Columbus. Clarice. How long until we are there? Izuku. If it continues like that, then another 5 days. Clarice. Gods damn it. Luke. Then let's go. If we walk through the night, then we might be in Minneapolis in a day. Izuku. Hard to believe, but sure. Let's go. 6 days later. Luke. Welcome to Keystone, our last hold before Mount Rushmore. Clarice. Finally. Izuku. We should rest for tonight. We have some fighting ahead of us tomorrow. Luke. We could stay in a hotel for tonight. Clarice. I don't think we have enough money left for that. Luke. Leave the money problem to me. Izuku. Honestly, I have nothing against the idea of a real bed. Luke. Then it's decided, come on. The next morning. The group of 3 was standing in front of Mount Rushmore. As they were looking up at the faces of the former US presidents, they wondered where the entrance to the cave is. Clarice. Any ideas? Luke. Well, the prophecy said under a mountain. So I guess the entrance is more towards the ground than in the mountain. Izuku. Maybe the entrance is behind the mountain. Clarice. Could be worth a try. They walked around the mountain but found nothing, then they walked around a second time. Clarice. Where is that fucking entrance? She screamed as she punched a rock, but the rock sounded hollow. Luke. I am pretty sure a stone isn't supposed to sound like that. Izuku stepped up to the rock and knocked on it. Izuku. You should think monsters would take a real stone to hide an entrance. Clarice. Didn't the prophecy said something about 7 guards made out of rock and mud? Izuku. Yeah, I guess by guards the prophecy means obstacles. Luke. Don't bet on that. I am to a 100% sure that there is something nasty waiting for us inside. Clarice tried to push the rock aside but to no avail as she groaned. Luke and Izuku joined her and together they tried to push the rock aside but the stone wouldn't budge. After 5 minutes of trying to push the rock aside they gave up. Clarice. That fucking thing is hollow. How the Hades can it be so heavy? Luke. Gods. Should have known that it wouldn't be that easy. Izuku was inspecting the stone closer. There were no things that kept it bolted to the ground or anything else that would stop them from moving the stone. He touched the surface of the stone slightly and the stone shaked slightly. Izuku pulled back his hand before he got an idea. He touched the surface of the stone again and started to move his fingers in a tickling motion. The stone started shaking more and then even started laughing. Clarice. What the? Izuku. It's ticklish. Luke. There, I thought this couldn't get any weirder. 2. Luke joined Izuku and soon the stone started to move away from them and revealed a small staircase. The staircase was only big enough to let one person through at the time. Luke. You want to go first? Luke asked towards Izuku. He nodded and pulled out his dagger as he went down after giving a quick prayer to Hades to not bury him underground. After squeezing his way down the staircase, Izuku finally arrived in a long dark corridor. He was quickly joined by Clarice and Luke. Luke. Any one of you got a torch? Izuku. I got a flashlight. Luke. Good enough. Izuku put on the flashlight and all they see is a gray corridor ahead of them with a stone door at the end. Clarice. I guess the door is our next obstacle. Clarice took a step forward only for her to nearly fall face first forward if it weren't for Luke catching her. Clarice. Why is the floor wet? Clarice asked as she inspected her now in dirt-covered shoe. Izuku got on his knee and touches the ground only to see that it was mud. Izuku. It's mud. Luke. Mud. Izuku then touches the wall on his right. Izuku. The walls as well. Clarice. Great, and let me guess there are deadly traps inside the mud. Luke. Probably. Clarice. Any idea how we are supposed to get past that? Luke. Hey, look at that. He pointed to the ceiling and the other two looked up towards he was pointing. Clarice. Sacrifice your arms for safe passage. Considering that there will be a monster ahead of us probably that sounds like a certain death sentence. Izuku. Maybe if only one of us does it, it would be enough. Izuku pulled out his dagger before throwing it into the mud floor. Nearly instantly the floor hardened and Luke pulled the two younger demigods forward as they ran as fast as they could through the corridor. Just as they stepped onto the platform before the door, the floor and wall turned soft again. Clarice. Great, now we are one fighter less. Izuku. Did you have a better idea? Clarice. No. The group of 3 now stood in front of a stone gate that has a face of an old man on it. Luke. How do we get through that? Izuku. No idea, knocking maybe. Clarice reached out and knocked on the gate. Instantly the eyes and the mouth of the face opened. Gate face. I make cold things warm. I make hot things cold. Rich has me and poor. Anyone who has me for a long time will grow old. What am I? Clarice. Why does it have to be a riddle? Gods damn it. Well, I am not good at riddles, so that is gonna be a pain in the ass. Izuku. I make cold things warm and hot things cold. Luke. Rich has me and poor. Anyone who has me for a long time will grow old. Izuku. It can't be medicine since good medicine is quite expensive. Luke. It does sound like it has something to do with the body. The face on the gate was breathing heavily and loud and it was starting to annoy Clarice. Clarice. Can you guys hurry up? I think that face wants to blow us off the platform. Izuku. Blow. Blow. It's breathing. I can blow into my hands to make them warm and I can blow on my soup to make it cold. Anyone has me rich and poor, and when I stop breathing I am dead. The answer: breath. Face gate. Correct. The gate opened and revealed a bright room. The room was round and oil lamps were hanging on the wall and the floor was sand. As soon as all of them entered the room, the gate behind them closed with a loud bang. Clarice. Great, this kinda look like a arena. Just then the room started shaking and the floor in the middle of the room opened and out came a monster that made the group want to run for the door. It was the Hydra. The monster roared before charging towards them. Clarice grabbed Izuku and pulled him as she jumped to the right while Luke jumped to the left to avoid the attack. Izuku rolled on the floor and got on his knees just to see the Hydra attacking Luke. That was when he realized that something was off. The Hydra didn't have scales, instead it was a brown wet-looking skin. Izuku. Guards of mud and stone. The Hydra is made out of mud. Izuku screamed to his companions. Luke. And how is that supposed to help us? Luke was dodging the heads of the Hydra. One head snapped forward trying to hit him, but Luke stepped to the side and cut off the Hydra's head. Which was a dumb idea, as just like the real Hydra, two more grew replacing the one. Izuku then got an idea and ran to the wall, grabbing one of the oil lamps. Clarice. Izuku, what are you doing? Izuku ran towards the Hydra and threw the oil lamp. The lamp shattered on the ground and fire bursted from it. The Hydra took a step back as it screeched at Izuku in anger. Luke, catching on, quickly grabbed another lamp and threw it in front of the mud Hydra. The monster screeched again as it tried to back away from the flames, only to make a jump forward as Clarice threw another lamp at the rear of the monster. Mud Hydra tried to get out of the flames, but each time the monster turned, an oil lamp would land there. At the end, the monster was driven against the wall with no chance to escape. Izuku threw the last oil lamp in the room directly under the monster. The monster screamed as the mud began to dry and hardened. The mud Hydra tried to run through the mud, but it only ended in one of the legs to break. The Hydra went down and roared in agony as she hardened out. It took 30 minutes for the fire to die down to reveal the newly made pottery Hydra. Izuku. Kinda sad we can't take that thing with us. I am sure Katie would have loved it in the gardens. Clarice. Who even had the idea to make a mud Hydra? Luke. Well, whoever hid the spear here thought that it would be here for a long time. So why put real monsters here when you can do that? Clarice. True. Luke looked around the room. It was darker now as only 2 oil lamps remained in the room. Luke. Any idea on how we have to go now? The 2 younger demigods then also looked around the room, trying. Clarice. Maybe we have to go down the hole where the mud Hydra came out. Luke. How do we open it? The group looked around the room in hopes of finding a door, but the only one they found was the one they already came through. Izuku. Great. Izuku looked at the Hydra and saw that one of the eyes was glowing. Curious, he walked up to the head that had the glowing eye. He touched and then started to pull it out. It was a green glowing marble. As soon as Izuku had the marble in out of the Hydra, the mud Hydra turned to dust. Luke. What did you do? Izuku. I got a marble. It was in one of the eyes. Clarice. And what are you doing with it? Izuku looked at the green marble in his hand before walking over to the place where the Hydra came out of the ground. Izuku. Maybe it's the key. He searched the floor for a hole or something where the marble is supposed to go, and in the center of the room he found it. A small hole mostly covered with sand. He kneels down and blows the sand aside. Then he puts the marble inside the small hole. The marble glowed up immediately and the ground began to shake again before it started to slowly descend downwards. Luke and Clarice quickly jumped on the platform as it went deeper down until it reached the bottom. The place was dark and there were no lights, but as soon as Izuku got off the platform, torches lit up and revealed a corridor full of treasures. Mountains of drachmae, jewels, jewelry, armor, weapons, and on the end of the corridor, standing on top of a stone pedestal, was a beautifully made bronze spear. The spear had a wide leaf blade and was around 10 meters or 6.8 feet long. The wood shaft looked smooth and well maintained and had a black leather grip with 2 bronze rings holding it in the middle, and on the end was a bronze spike. Clarice. Damn, look at all of this. Whoever hid that here must have had a lot of trust in their security. Clarice was about to walk over to a mountain of golden drachmae, but Luke stopped her by grabbing the collar of her jacket and pulling her back. Clarice. Hey, Luke. Don't touch anything. That just screams trap, that we surely don't want to deal with. Izuku ignored their bickering as he walked towards the spear at the end of the corridor. As he looked at it, he inspected the spear more. It looked undamaged and as if it just came out of the forge. He stopped just in front of the spear. Izuku. This isn't right. Clarice. What is it, Izuku? Just get the spear so that we can get out of here. Izuku. The main weapon of Achilles was his spear. He threw it. He fought and killed people and monsters with it. This spear looks like it never saw combat. Clarice. What are you on about? Izuku. This isn't Achilles' spear. Izuku looked around the room, looking over the mountains of treasure until his eyes settled on a lonely stone statue of a Greek hoplite in the far left side on the wall. What catched his eye was that while the entire statue was made out of stone, the spear the statue was holding wasn't. The spear it was holding looked like it hadn't been cleaned properly in centuries. The wooden shaft was a darker shade of brown than the one on the stone pedestal and showed damages of being in use. The bronze spear head was also smaller but was more pointy than the other one, and the top of the wood was wrapped with a light brown leather. This spear also seemed longer than the other one by a few inches, probably being around 15 or 7 feet. Izuku walked over to the statue and wrapped his fingers around the spear. Instantly he felt a surge rushing through his body, and the next thing he knew he was in a field full of flowers. Izuku. Luke. Clarice. Where are you? No one is gonna answer you here. Izuku. Huh. Izuku turned around and before him stood a man in bronze armor and a boar tusk helmet. He was holding a shield in one hand and in the other he had the spear Izuku just grabbed. Then it dawned on him who this man in front of him was. Izuku. Achilles. Achilles. Yes. Welcome to the fields of Asphodel, Izuku. Izuku. Am I dead? Achilles. No, as you touched the spear the powers pulled your consciousness to me. Your body is still in the room where you found the spear. Izuku. Oh, Achilles. Honestly I thought my descendants would be bigger. Izuku. Well, the reason I am so short is because of one of your descendants. My aunt and her family weren't exactly nice, but well, I ran away at the age of 6, lived 1 year of the streets before Zoe found me and brought me to Camp Half-Blood. Achilles. I understand, but I must say quite impressive. Not many children at that young age are able to survive on their own. Izuku. Wasn't exactly easy, saw my fair share of gang fights and hero fights happening in the alleyway where I was sleeping. Achilles. How about we talk while we walk? It's rare that I get someone to talk to. Izuku. What about my friends? Achilles. They will be fine. The only trap in that room is the false spear on the stone pedestal. Izuku. How do you know that? Achilles. One of my descendants by the name of Hisashi Midoriya made it with the help of Lady Demeter and Persephone. Apparently he was one of Demeter's many lovers. Izuku. Hisashi. Hisashi is my father. Achilles. Is he? Well, I guess that is why it was so easy for you to get past those traps. Izuku. Can you tell me about him? I nearly know nothing about him, only the things Aunt Inko told me, and what she told me wasn't much. Achilles. Well, I only met him twice, but I will tell you what I know. The two walked through the fields of Asphodel as the shadows of people walked past them, not saying a word or looking their way. That was until they saw a black girl with brown hair. She saw them and stood up. Achilles. Achilles. Hazel, how are you doing? The girl now named Hazel came running over to them. Hazel. Ah, the usual, you know, enjoying the flowers. Achilles. Of course. Oh, Hazel, meet my descendant Izuku. Hazel. Oh, how did you die? Izuku. I didn't. Achilles. Yeah, he is still alive. He found my spear and its powers pulled him down here. Just then Izuku's body began to fade. Izuku, looking at his now see-through hand, panicked. Achilles. Ah, it seems like you are waking up. Was nice meeting you, boy. I hope to see you in the future. Oh, also the spear is able to transform into a bracelet when needed. Hazel. Goodbye. Izuku was slapped in the face by Clarice as he woke up with a jump. Izuku. What? Did something happen? Clarice. Yeah, you passing out and refusing to wake up for an entire hour. Luke. You okay? You passed out as soon as you touched that spear. Izuku. Oh yeah, I am fine. The spear brought me to the fields of Asphodel. Luke. What did you do there? Izuku. Talking to Achilles. He really likes to talk apparently. Luke. I see. Izuku. Well, we got what we are here for. Izuku leaned down and picked up the spear. Clarice. I tried to lift it and it wouldn't even budge, and you are picking it up as if it is the easiest in the world. Luke. Well, he is a descendant of Achilles after all. Izuku held the spear in front of him before he turned to his companions with a smirk. The spear in his hand glowing as it transformed into a silver bracelet. Izuku. Well, let's get back to camp. A few days later the group of 3 arrived back in Camp Half-Blood together with Percy, Annabeth and Grover. Annabeth. So how did your guys' quest go? Izuku. Quite good, I would say. Luke. Well, besides the fact that we nearly got eaten by a mud hydra. That was made by Izuku's father. Percy. What? Izuku. My dad seemed to have more connections to the Greek worlds than I originally thought. Grover. Did you get the spear though? Izuku pulled of his new bracelet as it turned into the Pelion spear of Achilles. Annabeth. Huh, I thought it would be looking more flashy. A couple of weeks later the end of camp was coming closer. Katie. If I ask my dad I am sure he would agree to take you in for the summer. Izuku. That is nice of you Katie but I don't want to burden you and your family. Katie. You could never be a burden Izuku. Izuku. Duh. Izuku looked towards the forest as he sees Percy stumbling out of it before breaking down. Seeing this Izuku ran as fast as he could to the downed son of Poseidon, Katie closely behind him. Izuku. Percy what happened? The next words leaving Percy's mouth made Izuku's blood run cold. Percy. Luke betrayed us. Izuku paw. It has been 4 years since the betrayal of Luke. 2 years later Zoe died because of him and a year later 3 of my siblings died during the Battle of the Labyrinth. He tried to get me to join him and as I refused he tried to kill me. He even went so far and tried to kidnap Katie to get to me. Which ended in the death of a lot of his underlings. Right now I was in Manhattan fighting off monster after monster, my spear hitting its target every time. I was defending the entrance to the Empire State Building together with my siblings, the Ares, Athena and the rest of the cabins. The Apollo kids were attending the wounded as good as they could and the Hephaestus kids were cut off from our position. Me, Connor and the rest of the Hermes cabin attempted a counterattack to get to the Hephaestus kids and at first it seemed we would succeed. That was until Luke or at that moment Kronos turned up. Seeing him made my blood boil. Izuku. Bastard. My scream was filled with rage and sounded like rolling thunder. The weaker monsters instantly started to run away from together with some of the demigods that were on Kronos' side. Kronos. I must say that you have changed quite dramatically since last time. You look more like your ancestor now. I roared again as I charged at him. I thrusted my Pelion spear at him. He tried to redirect it but it still hit his armor and pierced right through it. If it weren't for the curse of Achilles he would be dead right now. He pushed my spear aside and got close to me. He tried to hit me with the pommel of his sword but I moved my head to the side and his arm landed on my shoulder. Quickly I lifted my shield and bashed it into the side of his head. He stumbled backwards as I thrusted at him again. He redirected the strike again and so instead of hitting his chest the spear hit him straight in the face but because of the curse the mighty weapon of Achilles just caused his head to snap backwards. Using the moment I charged at him with my shield in front of me, being caught off guard I managed to push him to the ground. I put my knees on his arms and pushed my shield down onto his throat choking him with the edge of my shield. He might be invincible but he can still be choked to death or drown. So that was my best bet of killing him. He tried to get free but my knees on his arms prevented that. Soon his movements became less frequent and his golden eyes began to flicker as he tried to breath out for air. His eyes changed to its originally blue color. Luke. Izuku. Just as he was about to pass out I felt a sharp pain in my left shoulder and then was kicked off of Luke. I rolled on the floor before I stopped and got up on one knee. I looked towards the direction of where Luke was. Standing there were 2 demigods, one being a guy with a sword and an eye patch which if I remember correctly from what Percy told me is Ethan Nakamura while the other one was a girl with long black hair and bow and arrow. The girl quickly checked on Luke while Nakamura was standing in front of him watching me. I looked at my shoulder seeing a broken arrow shaft sticking out of it. Grunting I got up just at the same moment when Luke got up. Luke looked at me before his eyes turned back to gold indicating that Kronos was back in charge. Kronos. Get rid of him. Kronos barked as the 2 demigods were joined by several monsters as Kronos made his way towards the entrance of the Empire State Building where the demigod Phalanx was still holding firm. I stood up just as Connor and Travis came up besides me. Travis looked at my shoulder where the arrow was sticking out. Izuku. We have to get to the Phalanx. Travis. That is easier said than done. We were surrounded at this point and cut off from our comrades. Connor. How about we get some ice cream after this, if we survive of course. Travis. Sure, why not? Izuku. But first we have to survive this. Just then the ground behind us opened and a man on a chariot flanked by 2 women appeared. The chariot was pulled by skeletal horses. The chariot stopped besides me, Connor and Travis. Hades. Seems like we just came in time. Kronos returned as he saw Hades arrive. Kronos. Ah, my son and daughter, have you come to bend your knee in front of me and see me destroy Olympus? Hades just stared at his father, and so did my mother, until Hades replied. Hades. As much as I dislike certain upstart demigods, it would not do for Olympus to fall. I would miss bickering with my siblings. And if there is one thing we agree on, it is that you were a terrible father. Then the army of the underworld appeared out of the crack behind us, and Connor jumped as the skeleton of a former German soldier came up besides him. Mother then looked at me and gave me a nod. Hades. Charge. I let out a scream of rage. The charging armies of undead combined with my scream caused many of our enemies to run in fear in an instant. Those who didn't fled were quickly overrun. From the corner of my eye I could see Connor clash swords with Ethan Nakamura. I thrusted my Pelion spear forward, piercing a hellhound. I thrusted again, killing one of Kronos' loyal demigods. Each thrust hit its target as more and more monsters turned to dust and the Kronos' loyal demigods fall to the floor. It got to the point where when monsters and hostile demigods saw me they would run away to escape my spear. This caused more openings for the undead soldiers to charge in and cause even more havoc. I turned around just in time to see an intense duel between Connor and Ethan, and it seemed like Ethan had the upper hand until he made a false step. Connor, using the moment, got behind Ethan's guard and thrusted his sword into Ethan's chest. Blood came out of the demigod's mouth as Connor pulled his sword back. Ethan fell to his knees and with his last breath curses the fates before falling dead to the ground. The enemy started to flee, trampling over each other as they tried to get away from the combined forces of demigods and undead. We had won, but there was no time to rest. Kronos managed to get through our line and up to Olympus. Me, Connor, Katie, Clarice and Travis ran to the elevator and pressed the button for the 400th floor. But as we arrived there we saw the fates carry out the dead body of Luke. I lowered my head, remembering the time me, Luke and Clarice were on the quest for the spear. At that time I never could have imagined that Luke would betray us. I looked over at Clarice, her eyes were cold towards Luke's dead body. After all, she lost a lot of her siblings and her best friend today. Luke caused us all a lot of pain. I remembered that as I straightened my shoulders before walking into the throne room of Olympus. Nearly in an instant Ares was besides Clarice, praising her on how bravely she fought the Drakon. Then my mother arrived together with Hades and Persephone. Demeter. My son, you did great. If it weren't for those two mortals you would have defeated Kronos even before he got to Olympus. I thanked my mother as Zeus finally called for order in the throne room. Connor. You find Izuku. Izuku. I have to find one of the Apollo kids, my shoulder is killing me. Zeus. As for Izuku, the son of Demeter and descendant of Achilles, I will give you something that once belonged to your great ancestor. No one paw. 2 weeks later, Izuku is seen in a mass of campers holding up Annabeth and Percy walking towards the shore of the lake. They were laughing as they threw the two into the lake, but after 10 minutes they still didn't came up. Travis. Where are they? Clarice. They are taking their sweet time. Izuku. Should we see if they are okay? Connor. They will be fine. Slowly the group started to disperse. Izuku was walking towards the Demeter cabin as he heard someone run after him. Connor. Izuku. Izuku turned around. Izuku. Oh Connor, what is it? Connor. Here. Izuku gasped. No way. It's the All Might attacking pose figurine. But they are brand new. How did you get one so fast? Connor. Stole it. Izuku. Really? Why? Connor. Remember that one figurine me and Travis destroyed 4 years ago before all of this started? Izuku. Yeah, Connor. Well, I realized that I never made that up to you, so. Yeah, I hope you like it. Izuku smiles, practically blinding the son of Hermes. Izuku. I love it, thank you so much. Izuku hugs Connor and gives him a kiss on the cheek before running towards the Demeter cabin to add the new figurine to his collection. While Connor was left behind staring and blushing at the son of Demeter. Travis. Oh, little bro got a crush. Connor. Shut up. Izuku paw. It has been nearly a year since the war and everything is going well. Currently I was leading around 3 new campers that just arrived today. Izuku. That cabin there is the Zeus and Hera cabin. Both of them aren't occupied since the big 3, Zeus, Hades and Poseidon, have sworn to not have children anymore. One of the children, his name is Andrew Barnaby, he had brown hair and gray eyes. I am certain he is a Athena kid. Raised his hand since he is the only one who constantly asks questions. Izuku. Yes, Andrew. Andrew. But the campers said that Zeus, Poseidon and Hades does have kids. So they broke the oath. Izuku. Yeah, Talia, Percy and Nico. Well, Percy and Talia, Nico doesn't really count because he was born before the oath. Thanks to the Lotus Eater Hotel, which I will tell you about another time. Anyways, dinner will be served in about 2 hours. There you will be claimed by your godly parent. After that you will be sitting with your siblings and sleep in the cabin of your parent. Everyone understand? They all nodded. Izuku. Good, now at last I will show you the training grounds and I will introduce you to the weapons we have. You can choose one and I and Clarice will show you the basics and a rundown of the training, and then it's time for dinner anyways. Now come one we don't have all day. This evening. I was right, Andrew was a child of Athena while the other two were children of Hephaestus. Me, I was sitting with my siblings as Chiron and Mr. D walked in. I haven't seen them all day. Chiron stood at the front while Mr. D sat down at the table. Chiron. Campers, I am sorry to announce that we are at war with the Romans. Then all hell broke loose. People stood up while others called out in confusion. Mr. D. Silence. Chiron. I know many of you just recovered from the Titan War and the Romans will certainly not be an easy foe. I stared at the empty plate in front of me, before turning to Katie. Izuku. It has barely been a year. Katie grabbed my shoulder. She knew what I meant. Chiron. Since we don't exactly know when the Romans will arrive, we will start to prepare for battle, tomorrow. For tonight, enjoy dinner and try to get a good night's sleep. I don't think I can, but nonetheless I told the plate what I wanted and burned a part of it to my mother with a quick prayer. As I sat down beside Katie again and started to eat, I got an idea. Izuku. We could plant a hedge. Katie. What? Izuku. We could plant a hedge around camp. Like a wall in Europe, the bigger villages planted big thorny hedges around their village for defense. It's easy to make, and with our powers it would take no time for the hedges to grow. I mean, we also use hedges to stop the stalls of getting into our cabin. The rest of my siblings looked at each other before Maria, one of my newer siblings, she was claimed a week ago, said. Maria. Well, I can't really fight yet, but I want to help, so that sounds like a good idea to me. The rest of my younger siblings nodded. Katie. Well, if everyone agrees, please lift your hand. All of my siblings lifted their hand. Some hesitated, but in the end lifted their hand as well. Katie looked at me and nodded. She and I stood up and walked over to the head table where Chiron and Mr. D sat. As Chiron saw us, he gave us a kind smile while Mr. D looked bored. Chiron. Katie. Izuku, what can I do for you? I looked at my sister and smiled. Izuku. We got an idea for the upcoming war. 3 weeks later. The hedge just finished in time as the Romans arrived. It was also thanks to the stalls that the Romans arrived later than they were supposed to be. They put up traps and obstacles to slow down their progress. Some wood nymphs even helped. The Hephaestus kids made platforms that we put behind the hedge for archers, slingers and ballistas. The new campers are tasked with supplying the ballistas and archers with ammunition and serve as reserves if needed. We also dug out a ditch around of the hedge and put in wooden spikes. Currently I and the rest of the cabin counselors together with Chiron were in a council of war. As we heard the Roman trumpets. Clarice. Seems like they are finally here. Travis. Wanna bet they look like shit. Lou Ellen. No, we already can guess what those guys went through. As we stepped out of the big house and ran to the part of the camp where the Roman legion was, we couldn't contain our laughter as we saw them. Their red or purple clothing was covered in mud, some were bruised and some looked like they got a bust to the face. Soon the entirety of camp laughed at the misery of the Roman legion. Clarice. Oh gods. Ha ha ha, you got them good, stole. Ha ha ha. Will. Look how sour they look. Izuku. Ha ha ha, they are even dirtier than us after a day on the field, ha ha ha. Katie. Yes. The laughter died down as we heard the sound of trumpets from the Roman formation. Clarice. Get in your positions. Quickly the archers stepped onto their platforms while I, Clarice, Travis and Connor took command of our phalanxes. We split up the remaining campers that weren't medics, slingers, ballista crew or archers into 4 phalanx units. My unit was mostly composed out of my siblings, the Hephaestus kids and the Hecate kids. Clarice had all of her siblings and a big part of the Athena kids in her unit. Travis' unit was made out of the Hermes kids, Nemesis and Iris kids, while Connor had the Aphrodite, Hebe, Nike and Tyche kids. Overall each unit had at least 20 to 30 figures, with Clarice units being the biggest one with 40. The Romans advanced with their auxiliary monster troops building the front. On their march the ballistas started firing, ripping through the lines of the auxiliary, and some shots even hitting the following legion. Then I could hear Will Solace screaming commands to the archers and slingers as the auxiliary moved past a stick that was placed there by the Apollo kids, and a hail of arrows and stones rained down upon the approaching enemy. Screams were followed and the monsters charged, abandoning their formation and surging forward in a disorganized manner. Clarice. Phalanx. Ranks were closed and shields interlocked, spears pointing forward. My and Clarice unit standing at the center with Travis and Connor standing on the flanks in a bow-like formation, making sure that no one can get to the entrance without a fight with the spear and the shield of Achilles, which was made out of adamantium. I braced for impact. The impact came, but much weaker than it would have been without range support. The monsters collided with us. The sound of scream and spears breaking filled the air as the auxiliary monsters crashed into us. But the phalanx held, and soon the monsters were met with heavy losses. I blocked an attack and thrusted forward, then I blocked and attacked again, killing a monster each time I thrusted my spear forward. Soon the ground was covered in golden dust and a trumpet was heard as the auxiliary retreated. We fended off the first wave, but it wouldn't take long until the second attack would come. Quickly the injured were brought inside the camp and the damage on the defenses was inspected. Some monsters made it past the ditch into the hedge. They tried to destroy it but were quickly met with a spear from a young camper that was standing behind the hedge. So besides some broken branches that were easily fixed with the help of me and my siblings, we got no dead but at least a dozen injured, 3 of them mortally. We pulled some of the younger campers up to fill out the gaps and went back into position. Before I went back into position I pulled the other phalanx commanders aside for a small council of war. Izuku. We can't keep the defense up when they attack in waves. They outnumber us with their auxiliary. Clarice. Do you have a suggestion? Izuku. We have to play for time. When we continue like that they will break through before the Athena Parthenos is here. Travis. That is easier said than done. Those guys seemed really determined to wipe us out. Then the Roman trumpet sounded again and the auxiliary moved forward, followed by the legionnaires. Izuku. Leave it to me. I got an idea. We ran back to our unites. I watched the enemy formation approach, and before they got into firing range, I stepped forward holding my shield up to signal my soldiers to hold their position. The rich decorated adamantium shield glistened in the sun. The Roman auxiliary held it as they saw me approach. Their ranks opened and a boy on horseback in purple and gold cloth and armor came riding out of their ranks. His face filled with arrogance, but I kept my cold gaze as I stopped in front of him. Octavian. I am Octavian, Pontifex Maximus, legacy of Apollo, augur of Camp Jupiter and centurion of the first cohort. Who are you to dare to step in front of us? Izuku. I am Izuku Midoriya, son of Demeter, descendant of Achilles, wielder of the spear and shield of Achilles and commander of the second hoplite phalanx. Octavian. What do you want, son of Ceres, Roman version of Demeter? Izuku. I challenge your best figure to a duel to the death. The victor can decide when the fig thing continues, or is the Roman legion too much of a coward to face a son of Demeter? I asked with a smirk, and I could hear cheers from the people behind me, and my smirk only widened as I saw the pissed-off face of Octavian. He went to say something but was interrupted as a tall muscle-packed man in Roman armor stepped past him. He was taller than me, with me barely reaching his shoulder. I got this, boss. Izuku. And who are you? Luis. I am Luis Waterman, son of Mars and Decurio of the 12th Legion. I will be your opponent, child of Ceres. Octavian. If you win Greek, then I swear by the gods that you can decide when this battle continues. I smirked as the Roman pulled his sword and got into a fighting stance. I got into a fighting stance as well and waited for my enemy to attack first. The attack came as Luis tried to push my spear aside with his shield, but I pulled it back and then thrust forward. The spear of Achilles went directly through the shield, splitting it open, and Luis jumped backwards trying to avoid the attack, which he managed to do. He dropped his broken shield and pulled out a dagger which he intended to use together with his sword. But I foiled this plan as I charged forward and attacked again 3 times. He managed to deflect the thrust of my spear, but as the 4th attack came his sword broke as it impacted with my spear. I saw Luis' eyes widen as the spear went through his chest and he spit out blood. Silence went over the battlefield as the only thing you could hear was the heavy breathing of Luis, my spear still buried in his chest. He grabbed the shaft of my spear and looked up to me, cursing me in Latin. But I just planted my foot on his chest and kicked him away to free my spear. He was dead before he hit the ground. A second after the dead body hit the ground, I could hear cheering coming from behind me as the campers on the battlements and in front of the gate cheered at my victory. The Romans meanwhile deflated at the sight of their dead comrade. I looked at the blond boy on horseback. He looked at his comrade, closed his eyes and sighed before glaring at me. Octavian. You won, Greek. When do you propose we continue this fight? Izuku. Tomorrow at around 2 p.m. in the afternoon. Octavian nodded. Then so be it. Octavian turned his horse around just as I turned around and joined back with my friends. Then the Roman army turned as well and marched back to their camp, but not before they picked up their dead comrade. Clarice. Well, we got till tomorrow afternoon. Any ideas if Jackson and the others don't show up till then? Izuku. Another duel, or we fight them in a pitched battle and hope we can hold out. Connor. At least we got enough time so that our wounded can somewhat heal up. Travis. Yeah, at least something. Connor. We should look over our defenses and repair what is there to repair and maybe improve it where it is possible. Izuku. Sounds like a plan. We will also have to assign enough guards to make sure those guys don't overrun us in our sleep. Clarice. Well then, let's go to work. The next day. We were standing in phalanx formation again as the Romans marched towards us again. Today Connor stepped forward for the duel, but he was stopped as a bunch of throwing spears came flying his way. He quickly ran back to his unit. It was obvious the Romans weren't interested in another duel. Soon the Roman trumpet was heard again and the auxiliary began their attack, and just like yesterday we repelled their attack. They attacked 3 times and 3 times we fought them off, but our lines were thinning and we had to pull up some of the reserves from inside the camp. As the trumpet sounded indicating that the 4th attack was about to come, a big shadow appeared in the middle of the battlefield. The Romans stopped advancing and looked at what was happening. The shadow took the form of a statue before it revealed itself to be the Athena Parthian. A girl I didn't know stepped out and said something to the Romans what I couldn't make out. One of my siblings then pointed out, "Sister, is that D'Angelo?" I looked towards the statue again, and indeed sitting in its shadow was Nico D'Angelo. But my attention was quickly taken as the monster auxiliary bellowed a battle cry and then charged, but not only at us but also at the legionnaires itself. Clarice. Hold, screamed Clarice, and then the real battle began. Everything happened fast. The monsters attacked and by brute force managed to push our phalanx formation back. The screams of the wounded filled the air and the smell of iron filled the air. I saw one of my younger siblings being butchered right in front of me. He was only 12 years old. That was the moment when my anger took over and I let out a roar of pure rage which sounded like rolling thunder. I charged and nothing but golden dust was left in my way as I massacred every monster that got in my way. Some monsters tried to flee but they didn't came far as others came charging from behind, essentially blocking their way of retreat. At one point Connor managed to catch up to me and killed those monsters that tried to attack my back. I didn't saw what the phalanx was doing, but I could still hear Clarice screaming commands. Connor at one point then grabbed my shoulder and tried to pull me back to the phalanx. But I didn't want to, my anger was still boiling. Another roar left my throat and this time all the monsters started to run away. Besides one, this monster was a giant at least 6 times bigger than men with 6 arms and a clay-like skin. It was a Geganese. Geganese. The blood of Achilles runs strong in your veins, son of Demeter. Izuku. Get out of my way, mudblood. Geganese. My blood is made out of mud, my bones of stone and my skin is clay, and I will be your end. Connor let go of my shoulder and I charged at the Geganese. The dirt giant tried to crush me with his fists, but avoided it and thrust it at his hand. I could feel as it hit the stone bone. The Geganese screamed and I quickly pulled out my spear. I forgot that Geganese are healed as long as they stand on the ground. The Geganese attacked again. I dodged again. How do I get rid of that guy when he can heal himself by simply standing? Wait, now I know how to beat him. But I was quickly ripped out of my thoughts as I was hit by a stone from the Geganese. I was thrown backwards and rolled on the floor. I used my shield to stop myself and to get up on my knees. Only to see the Geganese charging at me. My world was blurry and I tried to react, but the Geganese was faster. The giant was about to stomp me death as I was pulled away. Connor had gotten to me just in time to save me. Connor. Gods damn it, Izuku. Connor, let me go. Connor. What, Izuku? Now, I screamed as I pushed Connor away from me just in time to avoid being squashed by the Geganese. My leg though wasn't so lucky. I screamed in pain before the Geganese tried grabbing me. I threw my spear and it pierced through the Geganese eye. The Geganese screamed as it reached for the spear in its eye. The monster tried to pull it out but without luck. It would at least take two of them to even lift the spear. Thinking quickly, I focused on the plants around me. I could feel the roots that were going through the ground. I commanded them and they grew out of the ground and into the left foot of the Geganese. Pushing my powers even more, grass started to grow on the Geganese foot and then started moving up the monster's leg. The Geganese, feeling his leg wouldn't move, abandoned the attempt to get the spear out of its eye and looked down, seeing its left leg being overgrown with grass. It screamed and tried to move, but that only caused its leg to break from the knee. It fell to the ground and tried to crawl away, but nearly in an instant more roots shot up from the ground and into the belly of the earth giant. The roots drilled their way through the body of the giant. In one final scream, the Geganese exploded into a rain of mud and golden dust. The only thing remaining was my spear, which with a thud fell to the floor. Connor. Connor ran up to me and kneeled down beside me. He quickly picked me up bridal style, which was a mistake as my damaged leg dangled in the air, causing me extreme pain. Connor was about to run back, but I stopped him. Izuku. My spear. I have to get it. Connor. We can do that later. Izuku. No. Connor groaned but ran back. He knelt down on one knee so that I could pick up the spear, before standing up and running back towards the phalanx formation, or at least that what remained of it. My and Connor's units retreated behind the hedge as they couldn't hold out anymore. Travis' unit was also losing more and more on ground, while Clarice's unit stood firm but also took the most casualties. Connor carried me behind the hedge wall and put me down on a stretcher. Will Solace, son of Apollo and main medic, was there in an instant. He didn't say much and his face was covered in blood. He gave me some ambrosia and nectar, then with a few quick pushes and pulls set my leg right, or more like tried. We will need to operate that. The ambrosia and nectar will do their job and keep you alive. For now I will give you some painkillers. Izuku. How bad is it? Can I still fight? Will. No. The bones in your leg are, well, a mess. We will need to operate that later if we want to rescue your leg. Izuku. I can do that myself. I concentrated on my powers again and soon roots began growing out of the ground. They moved up like worms before shooting forward and into my leg. Will. What are you doing? I didn't respond as I was too busy screaming in pain as I could feel the roots going through my skin and flesh until they reached my bones. They moved around my leg as they set my bones right, pushing them back to where they belonged. The pain only intensified as the roots then moved from my leg to my foot and the little bones of my toes in place. It felt like someone was dragging a knife through the inside of my leg. Then with one final push they set the last bone right before the roots began binding themselves around my bone to make sure they would stay in place. By that point I was a sweating mess, but it was done. Izuku. Connor, remind me to never do that again. Connor. You are fucking crazy, you know that. Izuku. I know. I sat up and tried to move my injured leg. I was able to move my toes, but it still hurt. Then I tried to get up. Will. Hey, what do you think you are doing? Izuku. Going back to fight. Will. Are you crazy? You may have put your leg back together, but that doesn't mean that you're capable of fighting. Izuku. I am more capable to fight right now than most here. Take care of the more injured ones first. I will be fine for now. I finally managed to stand up, but I had to use my spear to help me stand and move. Connor walked besides me as we made our way back to the battlefield. As we reached it, we came just in time. Connor quickly ran to his brother and killed one of the monsters that tried to sneak up on Travis. I joined the two brothers and together we managed to hold the monsters long enough for Travis and Connor's unit to regroup. My own phalanx unit joined Claris' unit, and finally it seemed that luck was on our side, especially then when Percy and the others joined the fight. Finally there was a big explosion which sent the monster army running for the hills. The battle was over, we have won, Gaia was defeated. 2 weeks later, I was sitting near the strawberry field just enjoying the morning sun. My leg was in a brace and it probably will stay in a brace for quite some time. Yesterday we burned the last of our dead, some of which were my siblings. I visited them in the infirmary as they laid there fighting for their lives. Some made it, others don't. I should probably write a letter to their parents. Clarice is doing that too. Connor. Izuku. Oh hey Connor. Do you need something? Connor. I was just looking for you. Izuku. Oh, why? Connor. Well, Katie didn't see you leaving the cabin and you were about to miss breakfast. Izuku. Oh. Connor sat down beside me. Connor. You alright? Izuku. Yeah, I was just thinking about what I will write to the parents of my dead siblings. Connor. I can help you if you want. Me and Travis have finished ours yesterday. Izuku. Really? Me and Katie didn't even started yet. We sat there in silence staring into each other's eyes. Connor. You know you got beautiful eyes. Izuku. Thanks. Yours are nice too. I smiled at him and he back at me. We closed in our lips only inches apart from each other. I could feel his lips already on mine, but then there was a cough and we jerked away from each other. We turned towards the source of the sound and we saw Travis standing there with slight smile on his face. Travis. Did I interrupt something? Izuku. You better start running. Travis. Izuku, I wa. Izuku. Oh no, I am not the one you should be running from. I pointed behind him. Travis slowly turned around and his eyes widened as he saw Katie and Clarice standing there with a toothy grin on their faces. Clarice. You better start running, bitch. Travis gulped before taking a few steps away from her. Travis. I am sorry. Katie. We don't care, run. That was all it took for Travis to start running, a angry Katie and Clarice hot on his tail. Connor and me just looked after them before looking at each other, before we started laughing. Connor. Ha ha ha, oh gods, ha ha ha. Izuku. He is a dead man walking, ha ha ha. I put my hand on Connor's shoulder as we laughed together. After a couple of minutes our laughter died down and I looked up at Connor, who still tried to get the tears out of his eyes. He blinked them open as he said, Connor. Oh man, ahem. I cut him off as I smashed my lips on his. At first he was surprised but soon returned the kiss. As we parted lips he smiled at me. Connor. You can't believe how long I wanted to do this. Izuku. I can guess. Izuku pa. Well, this wasn't how I expected my peaceful life after the wars. What am I talking about, you ask? Maybe I am talking about the Army of Heroes, the National Guard of the state of New York and Army soldiers surrounding the camp. To say it simple, the mist is gone and now we have to deal with the mortals and they think we are villains or an organization of vigilantes who specifically goes after monster-like villains. But I think they slowly start to understand that we are not normal. Well, considering the increasing monster attacks and that only because all the demigods are either being besieged in Camp Half-Blood or New Rome. We tried to negotiate with them but they well more or less demanded our unconditional surrender, so now we are here. Watching as the barrier around camp is bombarded with artillery, quirks and the gods know what else. The Hecate kids are up day and night making sure the barrier holds strong while the Hephaestus kids did their best to improve our defenses. My siblings and I took down the hedge so the Hephaestus kids could build a palisade. After that we digged the ditch deeper and planted the hedge in front of the ditch and then another ditch in front of the hedge. So if the heroes and military get through the barrier then they have to get over a ditch, then through a hedge through a second ditch to get to the palisade. Harley, the youngest of the Hephaestus cabin, also had the idea to secure the entry to the camp with a drawbridge, and considering that we are under siege that wasn't a bad idea. So basically said camp is a full-blown fortress now. We got an endless supply of food, literally, and water. So their siege is pointless, especially since we broke through their siege several times, at least at sea, and that is thanks to Percy. Breaking the sea blockade of course had the reason to get new demigods into camp. Thanks to that we could somewhat reinforce our ranks. Though we don't know how the situation is in New Rome and Camp Jupiter, though I think they are fine. They have an army and government, so they should be fine and in a better position to negotiate than we are. Anyways, as of right now I and Connor were resting on a bench near the beach. He and I had the night guard together with the rest of the 2nd Phalanx Company. My siblings and the rest of the company were still sleeping. Izuku. Who would have thought that we run from one crisis into another? Connor. Fate really hates us, it seems. Izuku. What is next? A fucking crusade. A jihad. Connor. Izu, please, I know, okay. It's hard for everyone, not only you. I slumped down besides him as I put my head on his shoulder. Izuku. 2 wars and now this, haven't we fought enough? Connor. Well, fate loves to make our lives miserable, especially when you are demigod. We sat there in silence, which would have been calming if the silence wasn't interrupted by several loud explosions. Connor. Another bombardment. This is the 5th today. Izuku. 6th, honestly at this point they should just give up. They will not break through the barrier anytime soon. Connor. Yeah, even with Stars and Stripes quirk they wouldn't be able to get through. Izuku. Peef, and that would only work if she was here and not in the hospital. I guess the Minotaur cutting of her arm really got her ego down. Connor. I order your heart to stop working. Barely a minute later she loses an arm. Izuku. She should have ordered his body to explode. Everyone could have told her that the monster would just get back up as long as the body is intact. Connor. You mean every demigod could have told her? Izuku. Right. Well, I will give her that. She's doing better than every other hero they have brought in. Just then the ships that blocked us from the sea were pushed aside as a small sailing boat made its way to our shore. Connor. Seems like Percy is back. Let's go see if we get any new siblings. Connor stood up and reached out a hand for me to grab. I took it and he pulled me to my fight. After that we went hand in hand down to our little port. Just as Percy, Annabeth and 4 other people got off the boat, the sailing boat once belonged to Rachel's dad, but after we were exposed she kindly donated it for us to use. Izuku. Hey Percy, Annabeth. Percy. Izuku. Connor, how are you two? Connor. Well, as good as it can be. We had the night patrol shift and those guys are currently on their 6th bombardment since midnight. Izuku. Anyways, who are the new guys? Annabeth. This is Kyoka Jiro, Abara Shiozaki, Richard Sharp and David O'Donnell. Kyoka and Abara looked to be our age. Why they didn't come earlier to Camp 1 don't know. Maybe it has something to do with the distance between Japan and the US. Connor. Nice to meet you all. I am Connor Stoll, one of the 2 cabin counselors of the Hermes cabin, and this is Izuku Midoriya, head counselor of the Demeter cabin. The girl with thorns for hair looked at me. I don't even need to wait for her to be claimed. I already know who her godly parent is. It's obvious, really. Abara. You are Japanese. Izuku. Yep, came here as I was 7. Anyways, welcome to Camp 1, hope you like it. We are currently under siege, but we are working on that little issue. The new campers just nodded. Honestly, Abara and Kyoka were already clear who their godly parents are. But Richard and David not, but well, we will see soon enough where they will go. Percy. Alright, how about I show you 4 around camp before? Just then 4 glowing symbols appeared above the new campers' heads. A lyra appeared above Kyoka's and David's head, above Abara's head was a sheaf of wheat, and above Richard's head was owl. Percy. Well, that answers where you 4 are going to sleep tonight. Hail to Abara Shiozaki, daughter of Demeter, Kyoka Jiro, daughter of Apollo, David O'Donnell, son of Apollo, and Richard Sharp, son of Athena, and welcome to camp. No 1 POV. Location. Siege Camp. General Coulson didn't have a good week. Not only are they unsuccessful with breaking through the enemy's barrier. No, it also doesn't look good at the home front. Those monster attacks have increased and more heroes and soldiers are killed because of it, and if things couldn't get worse, Stars and Stripes also lost a arm to one those things. The enemy on the other hand seemed to be on a good run. They broke through the sea blockade several times this week. They also improved their defenses, and while a palisade and a hedge wouldn't be issue for a tank, the ditches are, and only God knows what other things they got in there. The next thing is their troop strength. From what they gathered till now, they have 4 units. Those 4 units were decimated through a war they thought apparently, but they seem to replenish their strength. That boat that constantly breaks through the sea blockade brings in reinforcements, it seems. He didn't like that. He didn't like that at all. Every day they waste on that barrier, those guys grow in strength while his own lines thin out because his soldiers are needed somewhere else. Soldier. General. A soldier burst through the entrance of the tent. his face a image of pure terror. Coulson. What is it? Soldier. Sir, you got to see this. They got a dragon now. Coulson. What? Jumping up from his seat, the general stormed out of the tent and ran towards the barrier. The soldiers there looked at the sky. Looking up, the general's eyes widened to size of saucers. Above them flew a giant bronze-colored dragon. The thing just flew through the barrier and then landed in front of the enemy's gate. At camp, Leo jumped down from Festus and then screamed at the gathered demigods. Leo. Your very own Leo Valdez, MCSHIZZLE, Bad Boy Supreme as BAAAAAAAAACK. No one pav. Laying in AA hospital bed was Kathleen Bate, also better known as Stars and Stripes, the #1 hero of the United States. She has been in the hospital for a week now, after the Minotaur cut off her arm and then threw a truck at her. Why didn't her quirk work? That was the main question she asked herself. She ordered that the beast's hearth would stop if it moved. It did move and died, but only a minute later it stood up again and cut her arm off. The only reason she is alive right now is thanks to a platoon of soldiers who had a rocket launcher and blew the thing's head off. It didn't kill it instantly, but it injured it severely. The soldiers had to charge it with bayonets to finally take it out. Apparently brute force works better on those monsters than quirks and guns. Kathleen was looking out the window as the door to her hospital room opened. She looked to the door and saw the president of the Hero Commission of the U.S. standing there. President Harper. Good to see Kathleen. Kathleen. Sir, what brings you here today? President Harper. Well, I wanted to see how our #1 is doing, and also there are urgent matters to be discussed. The president took a chair and sat down beside Kathleen's bed. President Harper. The monster attacks are increasing and the siege on Long Island is still going on. The same goes for San Francisco. We need you at the siege on Long Island. Kathleen. Sir. President Harper. We think that your quirk is the key to finally break through that godforsaken barrier that keeps those villains safe. Kathleen. I don't think so, sir. You saw that monster could withstand my quirk and it had to be brought down with brute force. What if this barrier is the same? President Harper. We can't say that unless we try. Kathleen. Sir, if I understand correctly, then those monster attacks have become more and more ever since those sieges started. Correct. In my eyes it seems that those kids in those camps were the ones keeping those monsters at bay. President Harper. Are they behind this? Either way we can't tell for certain, and until we do, they are vigilantes, and if it turns out that they are those who kept those monsters at bay, well then there is always room for talks. Kathleen narrowed her eyes at the president. She knew where this was going. Kathleen. Well, I can't leave for another 2 days. But as soon as I am out I will be over there. President Harper. Good to hear. The president stood up and walked out of the room. Kathleen. Well, this is gonna be fun, isn't it? At camp, Izuku. And this is your new home, the Demeter cabin. Now if you have any problems, please come to me or to Katie. We are happy to help you out. Especially since you were thrown into quite a complicated situation. Abara just nodded, but Izuku noted how tense and stiff she seemed. Izuku. At the beginning it may be a little overwhelming, but you will get used to it. Izuku saw her hand going up to her neck, her fingers playing around with a wooden cross that hung around her neck. Izuku. You were raised Christian. Abara. My father and my stepmother are both strictly Catholic. Izuku. I see. I guess that is the reason why you are so tense. Abara nodded again and Izuku gave her a small smile. Izuku. We got some people here that grew up in strict religious households. If you want, then I can arrange a meeting with one of them. Abara. Gee, that would be really nice, thank you Midoriya. Izuku. Just call me Izuku, we are siblings after all, and the Demeter kids stick together. And now come on, let's go inside and get you a bed. Abara. Then you can call me Abara. We can see Percy and Annabeth showing around Leo and Calypso. Leo was very interested in the extent of the defenses around camp and gave his input on how to improve them. Leo. Don't you have any artillery? Like ballistas or catapults? Annabeth. One ballista is currently in the making. The Hephaestus kids and Demeter kids were occupied building up the defenses. Isaac and Jake are currently building a wooden tower where we can place the ballista on after it is finished. Leo. Good idea. Maybe some cannons wouldn't be bad either. Percy. We don't have any gunpowder to use them though. Leo. Gunpowder no, but we could make black powder. All we need for that is charcoal, sulfur and saltpeter. Charcoal we can make and that is also how we can get sulfur. As for saltpeter all we need for that is a lot of well shit. 2 days later, Izuku and Obara walked to breakfast together. Some of their siblings were already there. Izuku took the seat besides Katie and Obara the seat besides Izuku. Izuku. Morning. Katie. Morning. Obara. Morning. Izuku. How was night patrol? Katie. Uneventful. There were some US patrols near the barrier but we mostly ignored each other. Quote. Miranda. Well, that was until Barry here thought they looked cold. Barry was the second youngest of the Demeter cabin, just being 10 years old. Barry. What? Who knows how long they were there. Also it was raining on their side of the barrier. Izuku. What did you do? Barry. Well, I saw them sitting under a tree near the barrier so I gave them my thermos flask. Katie. The most surprising thing was one of them came over, took it and thanked him before returning to his comrades under the tree. Obara. Did they drink it? Barry. They did. I saw it as I passed by later on. Obara. That was really nice of you. Barry. They are not my enemies. Miranda. But they think we are. Barry. Only because their superior officers tell them that. Katie nodded while Miranda just sighed and Izuku smiles at his youngest brother. Their conversation was abruptly interrupted though as they heard a cracking sound similar to that of wipe from the sky. They looked up and saw the barrier flicker. Panic spread amongst the younger campers while the older tried to calm them down even though they were slightly panicking themselves. The Hecate kids ran out of the pavilion and towards the barrier probably to see what was wrong. Izuku also jumped up and ran to his cabin followed by his siblings. They barged into the cabin startling those who were just getting up. Izuku quickly barked some commands. He then grabbed his spear, shield and helmet before running out, his siblings doing the same. Some tried to put on their armor while running while others just had their shield and weapon. Then something happened which made everyone slow down. From the border of the barrier they heard laughter. Izuku saw Katie and the rest of the night patrols already there laughing at something. Stepping up to his sister, Izuku's eyes widened before he also burst out laughing, quickly followed by those behind him. On the ground lay a pile of soldiers and heroes, and behind them stood a facepalming Stars and Stripes. Connor. Oh gods. I can't. Ha 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 ha. The soldiers and heroes grunted as they tried to get up and detangle from each other. The soldiers being more careful since they had their bayonets fixed on their rifles. 2 men came from the siege camp which Izuku recognized as General Coulson and President Harper. Izuku met General Coulson as they tried to negotiate and he saw Harper on a TV one time as he and Connor had a date in New York before the great exposure of demigods to the world. Coulson looked tired and done with everything while Harper wore a neutral expression. Chiron, Percy and Annabeth stepped forward. Annabeth mentioned to the other head counselors to also step up. Izuku stood in between Connor and Clarice as President Harper finally reached them. Chiron. Gentlemen, good to see you again, General, though I don't know who you are, sir. President Harper. I am President Harper of the U.S. Hero Commission, Mr. Chiron. Chiron, just Chiron, sir. President Harper. The trainer of heroes from Greek mythology. Chiron. The very same. President Harper. I see, those monsters are attacking more often and in greater numbers recently. As you can see, even our number 1 has had her struggles. He pointed to Stars and Stripes who stepped up besides the president. Chiron. I wouldn't be surprised. Mortals always struggled with monsters. Odysseus had to use trickery where Hercules and Achilles would have just barged through. President Harper. Is there a way to kill them more efficient? Chiron. Brute force. Bullets won't do much as well as most quirks. Kathleen. Yeah, we figured that out already. President Harper. We are here with an offer for you and your trainees, sir. Chiron. What kind of offer, sir? President Harper. You can continue what you are doing hunting monsters and that, but you are under the supervision of the Hero Commission and the U.S. government. Chiron. Basically said we become your pawns. President Harper. I wouldn't say it like that, it would be more like a working contract. Talia Grace, the lieutenant of the hunt who was also at camp since the beginning of the siege, shouted. Talia. The hunt only takes commands from Lady Artemis. If you would let us do our job then you wouldn't have to worry about monsters burning down your cities. Chiron. Talia silence. Chiron gave the Dogther of Zeus a stern look before turning his attention back to the commission president, who still wore a neutral expression. But Chiron wasn't fooled by that. He saw the glimmer of arrogance in the president's eyes. Chiron. We are not yours to command. The neutral expression on the president's face faded to a cold glare. President Harper. I don't think you know who you are talking to. Chiron. And neither do you. We held out for 3 weeks now. By the gods, we can make it a whole year, but we will not be the ones to break first. Annabeth. We already saw how your lines are thinning. The monsters must cause quite a bit of havoc if you have to pull off so many men to fight them. The president glares at Annabeth and growled before turning on his heel and walking away. General Coulson meanwhile glared at the back of the president before turning to Chiron with a tired expression. General Coulson. So I guess we continue. Chiron. We do, General. General Coulson. I see. Good day to you, sir. Come on, stars, let's go. Just as the two were about to walk away, there was a scream coming from the group of soldiers. Soldier. Hey you, the boy with the red hair. A soldier with white hair ran up to the barrier pointing at Barry. He stopped in front of the barrier before pulling something out from his back. It was a thermos flask. He couldn't get past the wards, but he held it out for Barry to see. Barry smiled and ran up to the barrier, taking the flask from the soldier. Soldier. Thanks for the tea, me and the boys really needed that. Barry. No problem. I hope it warmed you up, sir. Soldier. Just call me Bill, kid, and yes it did, and again thank you. See you around, kid. Barry. The name is Barry, and goodbye, Bill. The middle-aged soldier smiled at the boy before turning around and walking to his comrades. The veterans patted him on the shoulder while the recruits seemed stunned. Miranda meanwhile pulled Barry into a side hug and telling him he did a good job. Both Chiron and General Coulson smiled at the scene before they returned to where they came from. At midnight on the same day, the earth began to rumble and giant waves hit the coast of New Jersey. The rumbling got so bad that the windows of skyscrapers started to fall out and the streets began to crack. But just as fast as the rumbling came, it was over, while everyone was wondering what happened. Nobody noticed the new island that just grew out of the ocean and now stood there as if it always was there, and nobody could foresee the new nation that would rise directly in front of the U.S. coast. No one. Percy, Annabeth, Clarice, Connor and Izuku were seen walking along the coast of the new island that appeared out of nowhere 2 days ago. Clarice. So, this is our island now. Percy. From what Dad told me. The council decided, since we have been exposed and all that, and since Camp Jupiter already has its own city, that we should make one as well. Izuku. Making our own city. Annabeth nods. The island has the same size like Rhodes, and considering our numbers at the moment, we won't take away a lot of space. Izuku. Is that really a good idea? I mean, the port of New York is only 31 miles, 50 kilometers, that way, and with the current hostility of the US government, they could see this as a declaration of war. Then we not only have to deal with US troops but with the whole of NATO as well. Connor. You do have a point there, but on the other hand, having our own city like the Romans do, would be more than good for us. Think about it, finally a somewhat peaceful life, being able to build and living a life where we don't need to fear to die every second day. Clarice. Also, this island would be perfect to retreat to in case those mortals manage to get through the barrier. Connor. Speaking of barrier, does this island have one as well? Annabeth. Yes, but weaker than the one around camp. Poseidon though created a sentient vortex. If a ship that has bad intentions or tries to get to the island without permission, it will appear and either destroy them or suck them in and spit them out somewhere else. Clarice. We probably should try to get some of the Hecate kids here. They could strengthen the barrier around the island while we deal with the mortals. Izuku. What about camp? Will it be moved to the island as well? Percy shakes his head. No, camp will remain on the mainland. New demigods will go there to learn. Annabeth. It will be our foothold on the mainland. 7 days later at camp. Leo and a handful of campers are seen pushing 2 bronze cannons out of camp and onto the fields, while another group sets up wooden shields near the border of the forest. Leo. How far away is that? Harley. Around 1,312 feet, 400 meter. Why? Leo. Our cannons probably can shoot further. Anyways, let's get this started. He turned around towards Chiron and the rest of the campers who were looking worriedly at the cannons. Leo. Hello everyone. May introduce you all to Syra and Charybdis. Those two beautifuls are 12-pounders. Meaning they can shoot a 12-pound projectile at high speed, and of course they are made out of the best bronze available. Now that thing that you see up there on the wooden tower is the strongest ballista in the world. His name is Max. Now we are gonna test those three beauties. Isaac. Max goes first. Standing on the tower, Isaac and another Hephaestus kid aligned the ballista, then aiming at one of the wooden targets they fired. A loud thwack was heard as the ballista fired, and 10 seconds later the wooden target that was set up was destroyed, wooden splinters flying all around. The campers cheered seeing the ballista work so well. Leo. Now, let's see what Scraw and Charybdis can do. Take aim. The two cannons were aligned with their prospective target. Leo. Fire. But the two demigods with the matchstocks were hesitant, probably because of Leo and things he builds blowing up. Leo. Fire. Still the two demigods didn't move. Sighing, Leo grabbed one of the matchstocks and brought it to the fuse of the cannon, and a second later, and with a loud boom, the cannon rolled backwards, while the wooden target was turned into a rain of splinters and dirt. Leo went to the second cannon, and a second later this one shot as well, destroying its target. Leo. You see, it's perfectly safe. Leo grinned as he put one hand on a barrel of black powder, and as it should be, it blew up in his face. Leo coughed while the rest laughed at him. Leo. Okay, cough cough, maybe the last part was a bad idea. At the siege camp, General Coulson couldn't believe it. He heard 2 explosions, and seeing that none of his cannons fired, he went to see what the explosions were. Little did he expect to see their enemy testing out their new artillery. Yes, artillery. 3 pieces of artillery. One is a crossbow-looking catapult, and then there are 2 bronze cannons. Coulson was shocked, and that just fed into his frustration. He was finally reaching his breaking point, but he felt nothing but exhaustion. He fell on his knees. He was done. This siege, which lasted for 6 months, was now completely in favor of the demigods. Many of his soldiers seemed to agree with him, as some of them dropped their rifles or walked away. General Coulson. Colonel Miller. A middle-aged black male walked over to the general. Colonel Miller. Yes, sir. General Coulson. Let the High Command know that the enemy now possesses artillery, and tell them that we are packing up. We are going home. Colonel Miller. At once, sir. The colonel ran back to the siege camp. General Coulson. We are going home. Hero Commission HQ. New York. President Harper was in a meeting with high-ranking officers of the military and high-ranking heroes. Assistant. The island seemed to have just grown out of the ocean. The highest point of the island is this mountain with around 4,000 feet height, 1220 meter. The island is also 49.5 miles, 79.9 kilometers, long and 24 miles, 38 kilometers, at its widest, with a total area of approximately 541 square miles, 1,400 square kilometers, and a coastline of approximately 137 miles, 220 kilometers. U.S. General. Did someone already send a ship there to investigate? Assistant. Yes, the Coast Guard did send a small patrol boat, but as they were around 2 miles away from the coast, a vortex appeared which forced them to retreat. They tried to reach the island 7 more times, but each time with the same result. We also tried it through the air, only to be fended off by a barrier. U.S. official. So the island stands in connection with the demigods. Assistant. Yes, a group of them landed on the island only 2 days ago, and it was only this morning that we received news that they started to build a landing stage for their boat, which they stole from Arthur Dare. Number 3 Hero. Couldn't this count as a war declaration? U.S. General. That depends. On one side they are in our territory, on the other side they never initiated any aggressions towards the American people. Those sieges are one-sided as well. We are not able to make any progress at all while they just lean back and relax. The only thing they do is send out patrols. President Harper. Well, with the right methods we might be able to. The president wasn't able to finish his sentence as his secretary came bursting through the door. President Harper. What is the meaning of this? Don't you see that we are in an important meeting? The female just gulped as she started to stutter. President Harper. Oh, for God's sake, just spit it out. The female took a deep breath before straightening. Secretary. We just got a message from the Long Island siege, sir. The demigods are now in the possession of 3 artillery pieces, a ballista and 2 bronze cannons. The military officials all shot up from their seats screaming what and starting to scream over each other. The secretary wasn't done though and screamed for them to be silent, which surprised herself and everyone else in the room that she dared to tell them to be silent. Secretary, I am sorry about that. But anyways, there is something else. General Coulson gave the order to abandon the siege. The New Jersey National Guard is packing up their equipment while we speak. This was enough for the entire room to break into chaos. Meanwhile, President Harper just had his face buried in his hands. President Harper, this can't get any worse. Little did he know that it can in more ways than just one. Because while this meeting was happening, a disguised satyr approached Anastasia Harper, who just left her middle school. It was time for her to find out who her real mother is. No one paw. Location: New Rome, California. Raina was standing on the battlements, coffee mug in hand and her dogs sitting at her feet. She looked over the siege camp of the mortals. Seeing that the mortals were carrying crates towards their artillery, she groaned. She knew they got another artillery barrage soon enough. Yes, the shields around New Rome and Camp Jupiter are strong enough to make sure that not one of their shells or rockets hit. Doesn't mean that it wasn't annoying. For 7 months now is this going on, and despite their best efforts to negotiate, the mortals just ignored, choosing to besiege them instead of trying to talk it out. Anyways, she just ignored the mortals and went to the Senate building. This was going to be just another long day. Making her way into the Senate building, she sat down on her throne and waited for the senators to start their bickering. Senator 1. I say we should charge them. Senator 2. With what army? The Legion is still recovering. Senator 3. Those bombardments are getting annoying. We have to do something. Jason. Silence. If we attack them, then they have an excuse to use more devastating weapons. Not only that, do you think they would see us as soldiers of a nation? No, they would declare us a terrorist organization and show no mercy once they would break through the barrier. Raina. The Pontifex Maximus is right. In the eyes of the mortals, we are nothing more than a bunch of freaks who decided to settle down on their coast without their consent. We basically robbed their land, if you want to see it like that. There was an uproar amongst the Senate, senators starting to scream over each other and having very heated arguments. Raina looked towards Jason, who looked back at her. She sighed. This was going to be another long day. In the outskirts of New York, we can see a big black limousine drive up to a big mansion. Inside this limousine is the president of the Hero Commission, Lucius Harper, and he was on his way home. The limousine stopped in front of the large entrance of the mansion, and an old butler was already standing there to open the door of the car. Butler. Hello, sir. I hope you had a successful day. Harper. Could have been better. Is Anastasia home already? Butler. I am sorry, sir, but the young mistress hasn't arrived yet. We contacted some of her friends from school to inquire if she may be with them, but nothing. So we sended someone to her school to see if she is still there. Harper. What about calling her on her mobile phone? Butler. We tried, sir, but we weren't able to contact her. If she also isn't at school, then we will have to inform the police. Harper. Great, that was the last thing I needed for today. Let me know when you find her or not. Those were the final words of the president before he made his way into the house. The old butler just sighed sadly, shaking his head before following after his employer. Outside the barrier of Camp Half-Blood, artillery were brought into position. You see, after General Coulson and the National Guard of New Jersey decided to abandon the siege, the U.S. government decided to send the army there. They truly think with more guns and soldiers they could break through. Well, sadly for them it didn't work, though that doesn't mean they don't try. Especially the new general, General Ardmore, is extremely aggressive, launching bombardment after bombardment, sometimes 8 up to 1 day. For the demigods in Camp Half-Blood, it was getting more and more frustrating with each passing day. The bombardments were annoying before, but now it was getting out of hand. The Ares kids nearly charged at the U.S. positions on their own. Only the combined powers of Percy, Clarice and Izuku were able to stop them, and even that nearly didn't work. But then came the shocking news. A nymph spy was able to find out that the mortals know about the Oracle of Delphi. How they found out, nobody knows, but it still brought a lot of problems with it. First, they needed to get Rachel to camp safe. Then they need to find out how the mortals found out and then how to get the mortals to give up. Honestly, with the National Guards abandoning the siege, everyone hoped that the mortals would finally seek negotiations. But again they were proven wrong as they came back with even more cannons. Anyways, now let's get back at the problem at hand, mortals knowing about the Oracle of Delphi. Clarice. How did they find out? Chiron. We have no idea. Grover. I already contacted the satyrs and nymphs living in New Jersey, Connecticut, Pennsylvania and Maryland. Maybe one of them was captured. Chiron. Are there any missing demigods? Annabeth. Not that we know of. There could be some who fought for Kronos or Gaia that decided to help the mortals though. But we also don't know if New Rome has fallen or not. Damian White, the head counselor of the Nemesis cabin who was leaning against the wall, spoke up. Damian. But one thing is sure, if they got one of us in their hands, they will use any method necessary to get the informations they want. So they already may know who the Oracle is. Chiron. Then we have to get Rachel to camp as fast as possible. Chiron looked around the room to see who he could send to retrieve Rachel. Percy and Annabeth were out of question. Both of them have become quite famous mostly because they bring all the new campers to camp through the seaway. Also Percy is too important for their defense. Clarice is the only one that is able to keep her siblings in line, and he doesn't want to find out what happens when the Ares kids decide to attack the mortals. Chiron. Izuku, Connor, you two collect Rachel. Percy will bring you to Manhattan. Llewellyn, I want you to go with them, cover the boat in the mist. After you two then got Rachel, return to the boat and come back here. Percy. That sounds easy enough. Llewellyn. Considering our luck, it probably won't. A day later the plan was set into motion. Percy steered the boat up the Hudson River while Llewellyn made the boat invisible to the mortals. Meanwhile Izuku and Connor were looking at a map of Manhattan. Connor. It would be good if we can sail up this way. There we would be the closest to Rachel's school. Izuku. It would only be a 10-minute walk as well. Percy. Do you think you can get us here? Izuku pointed out the place they wanted to get on land. Percy. Sure, should be no problem. Though there are a lot of tourist ships there. So Lou, make sure your spell holds up. Llewellyn. Are you doubting me? Percy. Well, since this is the first time I am working with you, yes I do. I guess. Llewellyn. Just steer the boat, sea boy, and let me do the rest. Hiding in the forest watching the siege of Camp Half-Blood were the remnants of Gaia's army. The monsters may hate the demigods, but they also didn't like the mortals. Pitching them against each other was the idea of their new master, and today they would send the message of their new master to the world. At the front of the army stood a man dressed in a dark suit wearing a helmet that covered his entire face. Then with a wave of his hand the army of monsters advanced. Connor and Izuku were walking through the streets of New York, and to say it simple, they never saw this city being this quiet. There were barely any cars on the street, and the few people that were around also were more running than walking. Were the monster attacks that bad? They asked themselves, but they got their question answered as they walked past a destroyed store, flowers, pictures of people and candles placed before it. The two demigods just looked at each other, already able to imagine what happened. Finally they reached the private elite high school to which Rachel goes. Connor. Damn, I knew Rachel goes to a private school, but this is literally the definition of a rich people's school. Izuku. Who are you telling that? When is school over for her? Connor. Around 2 p.m., so in about 10 minutes. Izuku. Anything you want to do while we wait? Connor. Well, I would have taken you to a nice coffee or a hot dog stand, but everything here seems pretty shut down. Izuku. Yeah, I feel kinda weird being out in the open with no one around. The sound of ripping, screaming, gunshots and munching filled the air around Camp Half-Blood. Monsters were running wild in the siege camp of the U.S. Army, killing, murdering and even raping how much they wanted. There was nothing the mortals' troops could do. Their guns were doing barely to no damage on the monsters, and fighting them close quarters with only a bayonet was a lost game. Meanwhile the demigods could do nothing else but watch as the mortal soldiers were ripped apart. It was too risky to help the soldiers. One, in this chaos the soldiers could start shooting at them, and second, the US government could blame them for the attack and make them look like the attacker. Talia. Chiron. Stand down. Everyone stand down. Will please get the infirmary ready. After they are done we are gonna look for survivors. Will, understood sir. Chiron, may the gods help them. Clarice, I don't think they will. No one Pav. Izuku, run. Izuku, Connor and Rachel were running as fast as they could as they were chased by 3 big men who coincidentally were the bodyguards of Rachel. Connor, of course you got fucking bodyguards who have quirk allowance. Rachel, stop complaining and run. The group cut corners and ran through alleyways in their attempt to get away from their pursuers. Luckily for Izuku and Connor as demigods they had far more stamina than normal humans. Bad for them. Rachel, despite being the Oracle of Delphi, still was a normal human and struggled to keep up with the other two. Seeing Rachel slowing down, Connor saw no other way and spinned around to the ones chasing them. He punched the first one in the face, then spinned and kicked the second one in the chest, sending him backwards. The third one tries to grab him but Connor dodges him and kicks him in the ass, sending him towards Izuku, who quickly punches the bodyguard twice in the face, knocking him out. The other 2 guards get up and charge at Connor, both of them having their quirk activated. Connor ducks as one swings his rock-covered fist at him, and instead of hitting Connor he hits his colleague square in the face, knocking out the second man. Connor quickly stands up straight, kicking the last bodyguard between the legs, and as the man bends over in pain he brings his elbow down on the back of the monk's head, knocking him out. Now 3 men lay unconscious on the ground as Rachel tried to catch her breath. Rachel, this is so unfair. Izuku pats her on the back. Connor, why the hell do you need 3 bodyguards? Rachel, you do realize that the entirety of the Northern American continent is in disarray right now. Anyways, my dad thinks it isn't safe enough anymore for me to go alone. Actually, all of the parents of my school think that. Connor, yeah, anyways we should better get to the spot. Percy and Lou are waiting for us. Rachel, actually what the hell is going on? You guy just turn up to my school completely without Iris message or anything. Izuku, well, the mortals found out about the Oracle. They don't know it is you but they are looking. Connor, yeah, and before they find you, we thought it would be better if we bring you to camp. Rachel, I see. Izuku, we are sorry Rachel, we don't know how they found out be you. Rachel, no, it's okay. I should have guessed this day was coming but I just didn't wanted to believe it. Connor pats her on the shoulder. Connor, we better get going. Percy and Lou are waiting for us and I don't want to be here when those guys wake up. Moans of pain and screams of agony filled the air as the demigods gathered the injured soldiers who were laying all across the field. Clarice, we need more people here. Will, I have my hands full here. Chiron looked over the battlefield. No, this isn't a battlefield, he thought, this is a butchery. The chariots were used as transporters for the injured to bring them back to the infirmary, while the dead bodies are being collected and lined up. Grover, where are the mortals when you need them? Chiron turns his head to the satyr. Chiron, that is a good question. Chiron turns back to look over the field. Chiron, they should have realized by now that something is wrong. Percy, what the Hades happened here? Chiron and Grover turned around to see Percy, Llewellyn, Izuku, Connor and Rachel standing there. Grover, as you were gone the remnants of Gaia's army returned and attacked the siege camp of the mortals. Percy looked over the massacre and sighs. Percy, damn, and here I thought I saw everything. Chiron, Rachel and Lou, can you two please help out in the infirmary? Percy, I need the chariot of the Poseidon cabin for the transportation of the wounded, can you please do that? Izuku and Connor, please help out on the field, look for injured and give them first aid and line up the dead. Grover, you as well. Also keep your weapons at the ready, we don't know if all the monsters are gone or not. The young demigods nodded at their mentor and started with their work. But before Izuku could leave, Chiron put a hand on his shoulder. Chiron, did everything go all right? Izuku, we had to deal with Rachel's bodyguards, but besides that nothing happened. Chiron, good, now go to work. Izuku nods and runs off. That was when Abara walked past Chiron with an injured female soldier who seemed to have a broken leg. Chiron, Abara, let me take her. I will get her to the infirmary. Abara hands the female soldier over to Chiron, who picked her up bridal style. Abara, sir. Chiron, yes. Abara, why did this happen? She gestures at the field and Chiron sighs as he looks at the young demigod. Chiron. I don't know, Abara. Maybe it's a cruel twist of fate, or maybe something far more sinister is behind this. Abara nods, looking at the ground and taking a deep breath before turning around and going back from where she came. Chiron sighs sadly and turns around before galloping towards Camp Half-Blood. A figure hidden in the shadows chuckles as it watches the results of the attack. Master has really outdone himself. The eyes of the figure glow red before vanishing a whirlpool of shadows. This evening there was no dinner and no campfire songs as everyone was busy tending to the wounded. We got around 600 wounded here, 3/4 of them are severely injured, many of them will not see it tomorrow. Chiron. How many dead? Around 1,300 that we know of. According to one of the surviving officers, there were around 2,000 soldiers in total, meaning that around 100 are missing. Chiron. Anything else? We are running out of medical supplies. Since we can't give them ambrosia or nectar, we do have to rely heavily on our other supplies. We are nearly out of painkillers and we had to start tearing up old shirts since we ran out of bandages a while ago. The Demeter and Dionysus kids are also using their powers at full speed to resupply us with healing herbs as fast as they can. Chiron. What about the camp of the mortals? Don't they have any medical supplies there? Some Ares kids were already there. Sadly, most of the camp has been burned down, including their field hospital, and the rest is so destroyed that it is unusable. Chiron nods. Thanks, Will. Will nods and turns around to return to his work. Chiron. This is going to be a long night. No one pav. Lieutenant. Okay, listen up. Our siege camp was attacked by yet unknown attackers. Our soldiers are currently being treated by our enemies, but they are at their limit. That is why we are here now. All of you will help them treat our wounded and then bring them back to us. No weapons, not even a knife, is allowed, so if one of you fucks this up and our guys die because of it, then I will have you court-martialed. Everyone understand? Med soldiers. Yes, sir. Lieutenant. Good, now get out of here. Go, go, go. Izuku. Are you sure about this? Chiron. No, but we have no other choice. We are running low on supplies and we can't feed them ambrosia or nectar since that will kill them, and most of them can't be transported because of the condition they are in. Clarice. Those mortals have besieged us for months now. Bombarded us, tried to kill us, so why do we have to be the nice one? Peace comes a long way, and if they see that we mean no threat to them, then maybe we can get them on the negotiation table. Talia. That is far-fetched if you ask me, but the only hope we got at the moment. Nico. We still could abandon camp and go to that island of ours. Percy. We are not abandoning camp. Leo. Yeah, also the only thing on the island at the moment is a landing stage and a small hut where Rachel and a Hecate kid live in at the moment. So even if we would go to the island there, wou. Annabeth. Leo, shut up. Leo. Shutting up. Suddenly a big convoy of military trucks came from the forest and up the hill towards them. Clarice. Seems like they stick to our demands and came unarmed. Damian White, head counselor of the Nemesis cabin. Of course they did, unless they want to see their comrades suffer and die. Travis. Not gonna lie, I kind of expected that, and then that they would blame it on us. Clarice. I wouldn't have put it past them. The trucks came to a hold and soldiers with white armbands with a red cross on it jumped out carrying boxes and big chests which are probably filled to the brim with medical supply. Let's get to work. Izuku watched as the mortal soldiers helped the wounded alongside the Apollo kids and other demigods. Despite it only being 3 hours, you definitely could see improvements already. The medical supplies and reinforcements from the mortals definitely helped out a lot already. Clarice. They cleared this up faster than I thought. Izuku. Yup, if it goes on like that then some may be able to leave tomorrow. Clarice. Don't bet your drachma on that. There still is the issue with Gaia's remaining army. Izuku. As long as they besiege us and won't let us leave our camp, the mortals have to deal with them on their own. Connor. Question is how long they will be able to keep that up. They are already struggling as it is, and now they also got to deal with the army of monsters. Talia. It's their own fault if they don't let us do our work. Izuku. Excuse me. The group of 4 turn around and come face to face with one of the U.S. officers. Clarice. Yeah, Phillips. I am Major Phillips, the main commander of the medical force. I wanted to talk to Colonel Clarice LaRue and Colonel Izuku Midoriya. Clarice. I am Clarice and this is Izuku. Izuku. What can we help you with, sir? Phillips. I wanted to talk to you about the attack, and since I was told that you two were the highest-ranking officers here besides Chiron, Admiral Jackson and General Chase, I thought I'd come to you since the other three have no time for me. Izuku. Oh, of course, what do you want to know, sir? Meanwhile, on the island of demigods. Leo. You know this island needs a name, we can't just keep calling it island. Percy. Agreed. Annabeth. Can we just continue W.I.? Leo. How about Valdez Land? That kind OIF has a ring to it. Percy. Are you serious? No way, we are gonna name our new island after you. Leo. Then do you have a better idea? Percy. How about New Athens? Leo. You are copying the Romans now. Annabeth. Boys, we are here to mark out the spot for the next HUD, not to talk about whatever this is. Percy. Come on, wise girl, we really should have a name for our future home. Leo. Yeah, Annabeth. Annabeth. Fine, how about Izuku? And that is all. Do you want to know anything else, Major? Phillips. No, Colonel, thanks for those informations, sir. Phillips turned away as Izuku called out to him again. Izuku. Major, before I forget it, me and my colleagues have a theory that the monsters got a new leader since they are still united and not scattered after the defeat of Gaia. Phillips. I understand, thank you, sir. The Major turned away and started walking away from Izuku. Meanwhile, Izuku looked for his friends and saw them near the beach as they seemed to be waiting there, so he walked over, and that was when he saw the sailing boat arriving. Connor. Hey babe, what did he want to know? Izuku. Just asked about the fight, nothing more, nothing less. Connor put an arm around Izuku's shoulder and pressed a kiss on his cheek just as Percy, Annabeth and Leo jumped of the boat. Leo. Ladies and gentlemen, we have returned from the island of Xanthus, the island of demigods. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Please make sure to like and subscribe to the channel, and now we will see you in the next video.